Yes, there really are people out there who claim to have traveled to the future, and they have some pretty wild stories about what's gonna play out. Alien invasions, the death of all the world's birds, human-robot hybrids replacing regular humans completely, and even human-chimpanzee hybrids coming. Let's get into it. And we're starting off our list with a traveler who has some pretty bad news for animal lovers out there. John, a self-proclaimed time traveler, claims to have actually come from the year 4000 and traveled back in time with some interesting details about the future. Apparently, in the year 4000, technology will have advanced to such an extent that artificial intelligence dominates most of the world. He describes a world where AI merges with daily human activity, leading to a new era where biological and artificial entities coexist almost seamlessly. Seems like this is going to happen way sooner than the year 4000 though. One of the more specific claims John makes is about the way corporations will evolve in the future. He states that all companies will be owned by a single mega corporation that uses AI to manage its operations. This corporation supposedly designs, builds, and controls robots that perform nearly all types of jobs, pushing humans out of the workforce. According to John, the result is a society where human labor is no longer necessary and robots handle most tasks. John also notes that these advancements in AI and robotics lead to changes in the environment and the social structure of society. He also states that pets like cats and dogs won't be a thing anymore, and that all birds were destroyed in order to prevent them from colliding with flying cars. Aren't there a lot more things we could collide with, like driving normal cars, than like up in the sky? Why don't we destroy everything in our path, already? I don't know. That's an odd one. Next up, we have a man named William Taylor, who has some pretty wild things to say about the future, and interesting side note, he also passed a lie detector test, apparently. Now, I know lie detector tests aren't always foolproof, but not many people who claim to have traveled to the future have gone through any kind of test like that. So if that is true about the test, I don't know, that's kind of interesting. In 2018, a man named William Taylor claimed to have been part of a British intelligence project in which he traveled all the way to the year 8973. And he said that things were, or will be, actually pretty good in the distant future, so good in fact that he didn't even want to leave and come back to this time. Now, the only thing is that humans won't exist anymore, not the way we do currently anyway. Instead, a species of human-robot hybrids will populate the Earth, but no disease or crime will plague it, and these beings experience eternal life. Taylor also revealed some other intriguing information, like how time travel has actually been used by world governments since 1981. The technology was apparently reverse engineered from alien spacecrafts. A TikTok channel called Real TikTok Time Traveler started posting some pretty outlandish videos in 2022, mainly because this anonymous user claimed to be a time traveler. Is a channel the correct term when it comes to TikTok, by the way? Page? Like, do you say just like user? I'm very out of touch. I don't know where I am. Help me. But they've posted tons of videos making all kinds of claims about what the future holds, most of it pretty dark, because that's what people just love gobbling up. They claim to be from the year 2236 and mostly post about events that will be playing out over the next 10 years. Some of their standouts include, in 2025, scientists discovering signs of life on 2 different planets that are proven to be more advanced than humans, and a meteor coming down to Earth in 2034 that will wipe out half of America. So look forward to that. Alaric goes by the handle Radiant Time Traveler on TikTok and has shared some pretty grave warnings about the future. He claims to be from the year 2671, and in his latest video, he lets the fine people of the internet know about some of the notable stuff that's going to go down in the remainder of 2024. Keep May 15th marked down in your calendar, because an alien race is going to show up on Earth and transport 10,000 people to another planet. But aliens coming to Earth isn't going to catch our attention for long though, because May 27th marks the beginning of the next American Civil War, which will then lead to the outbreak of World War III. But don't be too worried about your hands or feet being blown off in the war, because less than a month after the fighting kicks off, a new fruit will be discovered that helps regrow lost limbs. Also in June, the very first human-chimp hybrid will be created, and June 19th also sees a new type of storm form called a mindstorm, which causes people people to lose their minds and go on violent rampages. As if World War III isn't enough already. Now we have a 28 days later situation on our hands. But the best part of it all, summer, it's really gonna end with a bang. When real-life dragons are discovered in the Rocky Mountains. They fly, they breathe fire, and they even speak English. Yes, specifically English. Sorry to everyone else in the world. You'll just have to watch these dragons fly around while we chat with them. Next on the list we have Darkness Time Traveler. Now, our boy Darkness has a pretty ominous bio on his TikTok channel / page / whatever you call it, reading, "Darkness is coming. The Shadow Network is almost here," from the year 2858. The Shadow Network? Jankies. I'm guessing that's not just a TV station that shows clips of shadows 24/7. In Darkness's latest video, they claim that the solar eclipse that just went down last week was actually a smokescreen for a bunch of alien beings to fly down to Earth on meteors, obscured from our view because of the eclipse. Because apparently we wouldn't be able to see meteors flying down the Earth because it's a little bit darker out. These alien beings are known by many other alien species though as the planet Enders, or Endids. They spell it two different ways in the video. Gonna guess they wrote the text in haste though to make sure we all got this information in time. People from 2858 can make spelling mistakes too. Anyway, the planet Endids have invaded a plethora of planets across the galaxy, and aside from their warmongering, violent ways, they've also brought a disease with them to Earth, the same disease that wiped out the alien beings who apparently once lived on Mars. So these invaders have been among us for about a week now at the time of this recording, awaiting the perfect time to strike. Because you guys are kind of watching this in the future, at least compared to me, why don't you let me know down in the comments what's going on. The Dresden Codex is one of the oldest and most important surviving Maya manuscripts, dating back to the 11th or 12th century. It's full of astronomical knowledge. There are all these detailed charts of the cycles of the moon, planets, mainly Venus, and it's all very precise. As most of us know, the Maya were able to predict solar and lunar eclipses with pretty incredible accuracy for the time. And one of the most impressive parts of the Dresden Codex is its Venus tables. These tables detail the cycles of Venus with such accuracy that it led to some wondering, well, how? Was it something they were able to figure out completely on their own? Or did they have some form of advanced knowledge or technology? There's always been pretty wild theories about the ancient Maya, mainly that they might have had access to information from extraterrestrials, which is something I'm sure we'd all love to believe, just a fun idea. The Codex also features more mythological elements too. Now, most experts believe that the Maya were just super smart. They carefully observed the night sky and used all these complicated mathematics, which is pretty amazing as is, but there's always that part of my brain that entertains some of the more fantastical ideas.
The Hindu epic Mahabharata, which is speculated to have been written sometime around 400 BCE, contains a story that follows a king, his daughter, and their search for her perfect suitor. The king, King Kakudmi, was a powerful leader who ruled over a prosperous and advanced mythical kingdom located under the sea. To his dismay, he could find no one he believed to be worthy of his daughter Revati's hand in marriage, and so the two set out to seek the advice of the Hindu god Brahma. When they arrived, Brahma was listening to a musical performance, so the king and his daughter waited patiently for the music to end before asking Brahma who should marry the king's daughter. The king told the god that he had searched for many princes and had seen a good many too, but none were to his liking. The god laughed and informed the king, "O king, the princes that you thought would become the groom of your daughter all died. Their sons and grandsons and their friends have all passed away." Brahma then goes on to explain how time moves differently on different planes of existence, and that the time the pair had spent waiting for the music to end, although it felt like mere minutes to them, was actually 27 Chaturyungas, one Chaturyunga being 4.32 million solar years. And according to the story, Brahma was right. When the pair returned to Earth, everything they once knew was gone, as though they had jumped forward through time unknowingly and completely by mistake. While this might sound like nothing more than a story, which to be fair, it likely is, the theory of time running differently on different planes of existence actually ties in greatly with Albert Einstein's theory of relativity. If you're not familiar with Einstein's theory, it states that the same law of physics hold true in all inertial reference frames, and that the speed of light is the same for all observers, even those moving with respect to one another. Simply put, it is the idea that the speed at which time happens is liable to change, although it will always feel the same to the respective observer existing in the respective plane. Furthermore, Einstein believed that space, time, and motion all collapse into a fourth dimension in which they all act on each other, and that gravity plays a major role in the passage of time, with a surplus of gravity causing time to go slower, and an absence of gravity causing time to accelerate. The idea of alternate planes existing adjacent to or inside of our own, with their own laws of time completely separate from our own, existing some 2,500 years ago, is pretty crazy. I mean, not only does it mention relative time travel, but based on the story's similarities to Einstein's theory, it might just prove it as well.
Nostradamus, born in 1503, is best known for his book Les Prophéties, which is packed with all these mysterious predictions about the future. The book is made up of short, cryptic verses called quatrains, some of which seem eerily accurate to events that would end up unfolding long after the book was written. For example, some people think his writings predicted events like the French Revolution, the rise of Napoleon, even the September 11th attacks. Now, some of his writing is very cryptic and very open to interpretation, for sure, but there are others that do seem pretty uncanny, especially when you look back with the benefit of hindsight. And Nostradamus wasn't just some wacky guy rambling on a street corner. He was a well-read scholar. He was very smart, but some people even think he might have had special insight into the future, some sort of hidden knowledge, like that he maybe had access to time travel. Again, fun to think about. The Rohonc Codex is a very odd manuscript that's been confusing scholars ever since it was first discovered in Hungary in the early 19th century. No one has been able to decipher its text or fully understand what it's trying to get across. It uses a script that doesn't match any known language, ancient or modern. It's like a code or cipher that no one has managed to crack, but there have been attempts. The illustrations in the manuscript are just as strange, showing scenes that seem to mix religious, mythological, and fantastical elements. Some of the drawings depict intricate but unfamiliar symbols, as well as scenes of what appear to be your more standard religious ceremonies. There are also images that kind of look like stuff found in other ancient cultures, almost like it's showing this world where all these different cultures were coexisting. Is the book a hoax, an actual piece of some sort of forgotten civilization, or something else entirely?
The Piri-Reis map contains what cartographers believe to be a depiction of ancient subtropical Antarctica. Here's the thing, the Piri-Reis map was created back in 1513, and Antarctica wasn't discovered until January of 1820. Furthermore, by the time the Piri-Reis map was created, Antarctica was already completely frozen. The map was created by a Turkish admiral and cartographer named Piri-Reis, and although Antarctica isn't outright labeled on the map, many modern-day cartographers believe that the landmass located at the bottom right corner of the map is representative of the continent and how it would have appeared more than 34 million years ago before becoming a frozen wasteland. So the question here is, did Piri-Reis travel back in time to witness the rainforest-like geography of Antarctica? And if so, how did he know where to look? Or perhaps more likely, did he travel forward in time to learn this all from modern-day cartographers and geologists? Unfortunately, at the moment, we only have a small fraction of the ancient relic that is the Piri-Reis map, but hopefully one day we will be able to locate the missing pieces, which might help paint a clearer picture on the subject. However, it's also possible we never find them, and it remains a mystery forever.
Our journey through time continues with a mysterious man simply known as Edward. In 2018, a man calling himself Edward came out claiming to be a time traveler from the year 5000. He said he'd been part of a top secret government time travel mission in 2004, where he traveled to the year 5000. He gave an interview where he shared a photo of what he said was Los Angeles in the future, and according to him, the city will be submerged underwater due to massive flooding caused by climate change. To substantiate his claim, Edward provided a photograph which he said depicted the future state of LA. In the photo, he described seeing skyscrapers and other buildings submerged in water, with only the tops visible above the waterline. He also stated that in the future, the effects of global warming will cause sea levels to rise significantly, leading to widespread flooding in coastal cities around the world, including Los Angeles, and that the inhabitants of these cities will have to adapt to new living conditions, with the remaining population living on the water's surface. Next, we have the Greek military time travelers. In 2017, an anonymous man claimed that after serving in the Greek military for 6 years, he was invited in 2013 to participate in a top-secret time travel project. According to his account, this project saw him travel to the year 3207, a journey that lasted 2 days. From his perspective, about a month after his story came out, another anonymous man from Greece also said he was a student, when in 2008 he was reportedly approached by a professor who offered him the chance to be part of a time travel experiment. He accepted and claimed to have been sent to the year 10,000. The purpose of this experiment was said to be related to gaining knowledge about a future war between humans and artificial intelligence. Again, I think they sent him way too far into the future if it's a war between humans and artificial intelligence. 10,000? That's pretty far up there. Maybe there's something wrong with the machine. And also, I mean, according to some other time travelers we've discussed already, that's a war we won't be winning. They could have just asked them, saved the whole trip. Next up, we have Athos Salame, who's now being referred to as the modern-day Nostradamus. He's made all these predictions about the future, a lot of them very similar to the type of stuff we've heard of before when it comes to end-of-the-world conspiracies, alien contact coming soon, AI reaching a new level of awareness and taking over, more deadly natural disasters, a big war, soon we'll be able to communicate with the dead through artificial intelligence technology, you know, all your standard stuff. But what I find really genuinely interesting and kind of creepy about this whole thing is that I'm honestly not even sure if this Athos Salame guy is a real person. I've seen plenty of pictures of him, and I've read news articles quoting things he's apparently said. I've seen other people in videos quoting things he said. I'm one of them. We have a whole video on this guy on the channel. Check it out after this. But I haven't seen footage of him actually moving his mouth and talking on video. I've seen like one, but it's like a narrator over top of it, and it's like low quality. It could be AI generated. And I mean, just look at him. Doesn't he look like he could be an AI generated image to you? I mean, all these news articles say he makes TikTok videos, but I can't find them. So what the hell is actually going on here? Who is Athos Salame? Is there a real person behind all these predictions, or is this some kind of artificially created thing? And if so, who created it? Next up, we have a man who claimed to have traveled through time with Barack Obama, Andrew Basiago. Basiago claimed he was part of Project Pegasus, a secret US government initiative that he says took place during the 60s and 70s. This project focused on developing technology for teleportation and time travel. He said he was chosen as a participant when he was just a young tyke because of his father's connection to the project. The technologies he mentioned included the chronovisor and teleporters. A chronovisor is said to be a device that allows users to view events from the past and future, while teleporters are said to enable physical travel across time and space instantaneously. But he didn't just go forwards in time, no, he traveled back to 1863, where he witnessed the Gettysburg Address delivered by President Abe Lincoln himself. Basiago was very public with his claims. At one point, he even ran for president, with part of his platform promising to reveal the secrets of time travel and teleportation technology. I mean, how did he not win the presidency? Doesn't everyone want to know all of these secrets? It was a cheap tactic, but I guess in the end, it didn't work anyway. Finally, we have the one and only John Titor. This is probably the most well-known time-traveling claim in the history of the internet. Now, of course, the whole thing is very far-fetched, but what is interesting about these posts are how detailed they are. Whoever this John Titor really is or was, quite the imagination. Or he's a real time traveler, obviously. So it all began in November of 2000 when someone started posting on online forums claiming to be an American military time traveler from the year 2036. They later start using the name John Titor in future posts, and according to Titor, he was sent back to 1975 originally to retrieve an IBM 5100 computer in order to read older programming languages in the future. He claims this machine was needed to debug legacy computer programs that existed in his time. And on his way back to 2036, Titor claimed he made a stopover in the year 2000 for personal reasons, and during this time is when he decided to interact with people on internet message boards. He gave detailed explanations about how his time machine and how time travel worked in general. He included diagrams and descriptions of its operation based on theoretical physics concepts. Till this day, it's still a complete mystery as to who this guy was. Was it just some dude having some fun? Was it a social experiment of some kind? We'll probably never know. What I do know though is that his whole story was a bit more interesting than just like, oh, aliens invade in the future. Going back from an old IBM computer? I don't know. Creative.
Starting off this countdown, we have the World Cup. During the 1962 FIFA World Cup, somebody captured a photo of the Brazilian team celebrating as they lift their trophy. But the photo captured more than just that. Towards the bottom of the photo, there's a man who appears to be taking a picture using a flip-style cell phone. Obviously, flip phones weren't a thing back then, so this has led people to believe that this guy is a time traveler, and obviously a fan of soccer. As a soccer player, I respect that. Now, it's quite weird that this time traveler would have a flip phone with them. Like, out of all devices, they chose to bring a flip phone back in time with them. On the other hand, people believe that the phone is actually just a film camera held at a weird angle, but who knows? In our 9th spot, we have Nicolas Cage. Okay, some of you may know this, I know the true fans will, but I love Nicolas Cage. National Treasures, great movie, don't come at me. Well, Nicolas Cage is theorized to be a time traveler. That's right. He's the face of a meme, an actor, America's national treasure, and even a time traveler. What a great thing to be able to write on your resume. There's a photo of a man from the 19th century that looks pretty identical to this Academy Award winning actor. The photo was taken in 1870 and features a Tennessee man dressed in a snazzy outfit. The photo was found in the back of an album of death portraits. And this photo could be yours for $1 million. Seriously, that's how much it's listed for. But anyways, this photo might just prove that Nick Cage is a time traveler. In our 8th spot, we have the brass bell. In 1944, a 10-year-old boy by the name of Newton Anderson was shoveling coal into his furnace at his home when a piece of coal was dropped and broke in half. Inside the coal revealed a mysterious bell. Keep in mind that the coal was found to be 300 million years old. Back then, the dominant life form on Earth were insects. Not only that, but studies on the bell revealed that it was handmade. So it's physically impossible for a bell like that to have been manufactured back then. So this has led people to believe that a time traveler went back in time to that time period and dropped their bell while doing so. But who the heck carries a bell with them when they're going back in time? Like, that's not something that would be in my suitcase. Now, of course, people were skeptical. They thought that the boy lied and didn't find the bell in the coal. But he underwent a polygraph test conducted by a specialist who worked on death row cases. It was discovered that he was indeed telling the truth. So now the question is, who was the time traveler that dropped this on their mission? And what is the significance behind the bell? Moving on to number 7, we have the toothed wheel. A Russian man was using coal to heat his home when he realized something odd sticking out of it. Researchers stated that it looked like a toothed wheel. Testing of this object revealed that it was 98% aluminum and 2% magnesium. What's weird is humans didn't learn to make aluminum until 1825. But this coal piece is 300 million years old. And the tooth object appears to be artificially made. Again, how did a man-made object find its way in a 300 million year old piece of coal? Not only that, but the object resembles parts that are used in things like microscopes or electronic devices. Or maybe time machines. It could be that a time traveler went back to that time period and then a piece broke off of his time traveling device or something. In our 6th spot, we have the skater boy. Skateboarding was an activity that became increasingly popular during the mid-70s. But here's the thing. There's a photo of a well-dressed man boarding through New York's Central Park. The photo was taken back in the 1960s, when very few people were out skateboarding. In fact, it was very rare to see people skateboarding before the 70s, because it was not a popular activity at all. And even when it did become popular, it took years before it was embraced as a real sport. So then, who is this man in a suit that is riding a board? He looks super out of place. This has led people to believe that he is a time traveler from the future that clearly likes skateboarding as his method of transportation. We are now at our 5th and halfway mark with John Titor. John Titor is a supposed time traveler from the year 2036 on a military mission. He first made his appearance on the internet in the 2000s on online forums. He would post about predictions or share stories from the future. The reason for him traveling back in time is so that he can get an IBM 5100, which apparently had a secret function that could translate anything to any language. I have no clue why he needed it, but he did. On the forums, John also posted grainy photos of the time machine and of the military logo from the future. In 2001, John disappeared from online and was never heard from again. So some people believe that he is a real time traveler. Maybe he made it back home, or maybe something else happened to him.
What if a personal tragedy could light the spark for defying physics itself? Meet Professor Ronald Mallet, a man whose childhood heartbreak transformed into a lifelong quest to bend time. At just 10 years old, Mallet's world was shattered by the sudden loss of his beloved father, Boyd. In the midst of overwhelming grief, he discovered solace in the pages of H.G. Wells' The Time Machine and the revolutionary ideas of Einstein. These readings planted a radical seed in his mind. What if time, much like space, could be traveled? With his heart set on rewriting the past, young Mallet vowed to journey back to 1955 to save his father. Fueling his dreams with determination, Mallet dove deep into the world of physics. Even as a child cobbling together a makeshift model from bicycle parts, spare TV components, and old radio bits, his ideas transcended mere fantasy. He was captivated by a single transformative line. Scientific people know very well that time is just a kind of space, which propelled him into a stellar academic career. Over the decades, he advanced from a curious, grief-stricken boy in the Bronx into one of the pioneering theoretical physicists of his generation. Now an emeritus professor at the University of Connecticut, Mallet's research centers on the audacious idea, twisting the fabric of space-time with a ring of rotating lasers. Imagine stirring a cup of coffee until the swirl creates a vortex. Mallet theorizes that a similar effect occurs near a rotating black hole, where space-time itself gets dragged along. By replicating such conditions with a continuously spinning beam of light, he believes a loop of time might be created. A portal, if you will, that allows travel back along the timeline. Although the practical hurdles remain enormous, his critics point out that such a machine would require astronomical amounts of energy, likening it to a galactic scale feat. His theory has sparked serious discussion in academic circles. Institutions like MIT and specialized departments worldwide are now studying aspects of time reversal and related phenomena, signaling that time travel might be less outlandish than once thought. While Mallet's ultimate goal, to return to 1955 and rewrite personal history, remains beyond our reach, and, by his own admission, might only ever allow travel back to the moment the time loop was created, his work has broader, inspiring implications. He envisions a future where the ability to manipulate time could be harnessed for incredible advances, predicting natural disasters with precision, inventing breakthrough treatments in medicine, or even curbing the impact of catastrophic events like pandemics. In this light, his research is less about personal revenge against fate and more about opening doors to potential innovations that could transform the well-being of humanity. His journey from a grieving child to a celebrated astrophysicist illustrates how heartache can fuel intellectual curiosity, inspiring us to question the rigid boundaries of our reality. In his eyes, his father's memory is not just a source of sorrow, but the spark that ignited a legacy of discovery. And in my opinion, that is the best legacy he could have left, and I can only imagine how proud his father would have been. Andrew Basiago is a controversial figure who claims that as a child, he was recruited into a secret US government project, often associated with the mysterious Project Pegasus that allegedly enabled him to traverse both space and time. According to his narrative, these experimental missions allowed him not only to visit different points in history, but also to glimpse potential futures, suggesting that the rigid boundaries between past, present, and future might be more flexible than mainstream science acknowledges. Andrew's accounts describe surreal journeys during which he purportedly witnessed historical events firsthand and interacted with realities that challenge our conventional understanding of time. While his stories have captured the imagination of time travel enthusiasts and sparked intriguing debates within alternative scientific circles, mainstream researchers remain skeptical, citing a lack of empirical evidence to substantiate these extraordinary claims. I know the claims sound outlandish, but this is also coming from a person who is apparently a practicing and educated attorney. It all really is interesting, and hey, I could see it being true, and also untrue, so I guess I'll just let you decide on this one. Could it be a hidden hand that has been subtly rewriting our timeline all along? Some researchers point to a peculiar spike in Mandela effect searches around 2005, speculating that one mysterious figure might be at the root of these temporal oddities. They draw connections between little-known details, like Donald Trump's uncle, once a respected MIT professor who played a role in World War II, and his family's acquisition of Nikola Tesla's private research, which was later funneled to John Trump for analysis after Tesla's demise. This web of intrigue deepens when you factor in figures such as Alfred Lee Loomis, a key collaborator in the Manhattan Project and pioneer of cyclotron technology, who reportedly worked closely with John Trump. Then there's the curious role of Prince Bernard, a co-founder of both CERN and the Bilderberg Group, who reportedly orchestrated a covert mission to collect and repurpose German scientific research on the Heidelberg cyclotron after World War II, a move seen by some as part of a larger hidden agenda against Nazi Germany. All of these connections hint at a clandestine effort where cutting-edge science, government cover-ups, and historical revisionism intermingle, leaving us to wonder if our understanding of time has been manipulated by forces determined to keep these secrets buried beneath layers of conspiracy and intrigue.
The Alexander Romance is a collection of tales and legends about Alexander the Great that have been told and retold many, many times. There are tons of versions of these stories dating back to the Middle Ages. The stories are kind of a mix of history with myth, creating this very dramatic version of Alexander's life. There's one tale accompanied by illustrations that people often look at and go, wait, is that what I think it is? That looks like a submarine. In the story, Alexander journeys to the edge of the world, where he encounters strange and fantastical creatures like a giant crab. He ends up acquiring a vessel to travel underwater to collect pearls. Again, there are many versions, but in one, he asks for a mighty barrel of white glass, beautiful as no one had ever seen before, which he uses to travel under the water. The illustrations from the time look almost like something you could expect to see in a science fiction story, rather than a medieval piece of mythology. So it's certainly interesting, but did Alexander, as great as he was, ever actually set foot in an ancient submarine and dive underwater? Probably not. This is one of the more embellished or straight up fictional stories, but could it have been inspired by something people at the time had seen that they just didn't fully understand?
The ancient Indian text Ramayana described the gods getting around in flying chariots known as Rothans, but of course, flying gods are really nothing new, so let's talk about another aspect of the ancient text, the Pushpaka Vimana, an aerial vehicle described as a large, superb aerial chariot that could fly at great speeds and carry a large number of passengers inside of it. Starting to sound familiar? There are a number of references to flying machines throughout the Ramayana epic that outline one, their aerial agility. Vimanas are said to be capable of riding into the sky vertically, horizontally, and diagonally, which signifies precision propulsion control, and in some stories they are even said to have visited space. 2, their speed, which allowed them to cover extensive areas within hours. 3, their materials. They were said to be made of metals and alloys. 4, their weaponry. Some of these flying machines were described as being armed with a variety of powerful weapons, which many people believe is an implication of military use. And 5, their energy sources, which include solar power and mercury propulsion. Mercury, which was one time strongly considered for use in rocket fuel, until safer options were discovered, that is. The similarity between the tales told in the Ramayana and aerial and aerospace engineering are pretty uncanny if you ask me. Maybe it's because the people in charge of writing the text, which dates back to between the 7th and 15th century BCE, knew what was coming in the future, and they wanted to be some of the first ones to document the inventions.
The Voynich manuscript is one of the biggest mysteries in the world of really old books. It's a handwritten piece from the early 15th century, but its language and even most of the illustrations inside make absolutely no sense, at least from what historians and archaeologists can tell. It's filled with weird symbols and drawings that no one can understand or translate. It's like the writer just invented an entirely new alphabet. On top of that, the book is full of all these weird illustrations. There are drawings of plants that don't exist, odd diagrams, and bizarre figures. Some of the images are so weird that they look like they're from another world. People have tried everything to figure out what this manuscript really means. Cryptographers, linguists, even computer experts have attempted to explain it, and there are some very plausible explanations, but no definitive ones. There's even a theory that the manuscript might have been a 15th century prank or piece of offbeat comedy intentionally written to confuse people. Others think it could actually be a lost language or code, but what if, just what if, the Voynich manuscript actually contains super advanced knowledge from the distant future, which was shared to the mystery author by a time traveler? That's probably the most likely explanation. I've solved it.
Homer's Iliad, which was written around the 8th century BCE, doesn't predict robots or AI in the modern sense. However, there are some intriguing elements that can be interpreted as early interpretations of artificial beings and intelligent mechanisms. One example of this is the myth of Hephaestus, the god of fire and craftsmanship, who created automata, self-operating mechanical beings. Hephaestus fashioned mechanical servants out of gold, designed to assist him in his workshop. These golden beings could move and perform tasks on their own, kind of like the super creepy AI robots we see today. One servant in particular, created by Hephaestus, was Talos, a mechanical device cast in bronze designed to act and think like a human being. Talos was said to be the protector of the island of Crete, able to move around the island and attack intruders. In the end, he was defeated, but only after his opponent removed the nail from his heel that was keeping his life force inside of him. Or in other words, they hit the kill switch. Again, sound familiar?
So in 2016, a team of archaeologists in Mongolia made a strange discovery. It was a 1500-year-old mummy buried in the Altai Mountains. The body was impressively well preserved, but what really set off the internet were the shoes. People swore they looked exactly like a pair of modern Adidas sneakers. Observe the black stripes, the overall sporty design. Photos of the find started popping up online, and of course, the time travel talk began. Were they serious? For the most part, no. Were a few people serious though? Yeah, probably. Why would someone from over 1,000 years ago be wearing something that looked like it came straight from a footlocker? People said. What the hell is footlocker? Said the Zoomers. Is that like jail for people's feet? Or MMA move? I'm not crazy, right? Like, there's not as many footlockers as there used to be. Anyway, even if it wasn't Adidas, the style was bizarrely modern. Well, that's when the experts stepped in, and by that I do not mean Foot Locker employees, I mean archaeologists and historians who addressed the issue at hand, or should I say issue at foot. And they said, no, these are not Adidas. Stripes were apparently part of traditional Mongolian stitching, and the shape of the shoe was just, I don't know, a coincidence, I guess. According to researchers, it wasn't meant to look like a sneaker, it just aged in a way that made it look familiar to us now. This is what Mike Tyson used to look like before his face tattoo. This is footage from his 1995 boxing match with Peter McNeely, but when you slow it down and zoom in on a guy sitting ringside, something looks kinda out of place. Someone looks like they're holding up something that looks exactly like a smartphone, filming vertically, which is weird because it's 1995. Phones like that just didn't exist yet. The first smartphones were still years away, and the first phones with video cameras were even further off. But this guy is clearly holding something slim and rectangular. You can even see a lens glint in the light, like it's catching the action. So what was it? Well, some say it was just a camcorder, but camcorders in the mid-90s were clunky, didn't hold them like a phone. Others say maybe it was a prototype. I don't know. I think the most probable answer, though, is that someone who was so distraught over his fight with Jake Paul, or whatever you want to call that, I don't even know if it was a fight, but in their desperation, they were somehow able to craft a working time machine, using it to, of course, travel back to the mid-90s to see Mike Tyson right after he got out of prison. It's an odd time to choose, not quite his prime, but he was still winning fights. Regardless, though, if you're gonna go back in time, you're not going to leave your cell phone behind, right? So this one comes from a 1938 video. It's quick, but take a look at the woman who has her hand to her ear. Notice something? It really looks like she's talking on a cell phone, doesn't it? Now, obviously, that makes zero sense. Cell phones weren't a thing for another 60 years. So, of course, people started tossing around their theories. Aside from people debunking it, though, there are really only two theories people have. That this chick's either a time traveler, or this is a case of some sort of glitch in reality. Like whatever computer overlord is controlling our reality accidentally added a cell phone to a video supposedly shot long before they were invented. Makes sense to me, but the official explanation is more boring. Interesting in its own way, though. So a woman came forward years later claiming that it was her great aunt in the footage. According to her, a factory she was working at had an experimental communications division, and the workers were testing out wireless radios. That's supposedly what this woman was holding, a two-way radio prototype. Kinda cool. But if that technology was available in 1938, why did it take another half century to get mobile phones into people's hands? I don't know, I just make videos about sea monsters and ghosts. The hell do I know, really? Cell phones are all over this list. Seems like this is the only way to tell if someone's traveled back in time and showed up on camera. So this one comes from a behind-the-scenes video that was included as a bonus feature for Charlie Chaplin's 1928 movie, The Circus. Shows people arriving for the film's premiere. It's street footage outside the theater in Los Angeles. But if you look closely, there's a woman walking by in the background doing something very weird for 1928. She's holding something up to her ear, and she's talking into it, like she's on a cellular telephone. Filmmaker George Clark posted the clip online back in 2010, and he called it Chaplin's Time Traveler. The mainstream explanation is that she's using an early hearing aid. Apparently those did exist in the late 20s, and some of them had to be held up to the ear like that. I don't know, news to me.
Could a year in space turn your body into a real-life time machine, rewriting how you age? Consider the famous twin paradox from Einstein's playbook. One twin zooming through space at near light speed should age slower than the twin left on Earth. But real-life evidence from NASA's twin astronauts tells a twisty tale. Astronaut Scott Kelly, who spent nearly a year aboard the International Space Station, appears to have aged slightly faster than his identical Earthbound twin Mark, a striking example of how the extreme conditions of space can warp not only your surroundings but also your very biological clock. When Scott ventured into low Earth orbit, he wasn't hurtling through space at light speed. Instead, his body faced a cocktail of space-related challenges. Constant exposure to radiation, the stress of microgravity, disrupted sleep cycles, and the cramped confines of a space station. These factors factors combined to accelerate certain aspects of his aging process. While traditional time dilation from high-speed travel remains safely in Einstein's theoretical realm, Scott's experience hints at a more earthly sort of time travel, one that happens inside our cells. One of the quirkiest findings from the NASA twins study was that Scott's telomeres, the protective caps at the ends of our chromosomes that naturally shorten as we age, actually lengthened while he was in space, in a way that seemed like a reverse aging effect, a biological nod to the possibility of time reversal. But here's the catch: once he returned to Earth, those telomere gains vanished, and in fact he ended up with more short telomeres than before his flight. This sudden flip-flop raises both scientific questions and health concerns, pointing to a long-term risk of accelerated aging or even an increased chance of developing age-related diseases. So next time you glance at the clock, ponder this. Could the ticking of our timepieces be subtly affected by where we are, or even by the very environment we inhabit? With every venture into space, humanity inches closer to understanding the intricate dance between time, biology, and the cosmos. What if the sound of crashing waves carried echoes of centuries past? Down in the quaint coastal town of Broadhaven, Wales, local residents and visitors have reported moments where time itself seems to rewind. One well-documented account tells of a family enjoying a sunny beach day, only to be startled when the laughter of children and the clatter of horse-drawn carriage sounds seemingly out of place filled the air. For a few breathless minutes, the modern seaside transformed into a scene reminiscent of the 19th century. Old-fashioned attire, vintage beach umbrellas, and even a glimpse of a forgotten seaside fair emerged as if summoned by the tides. Though no definitive evidence proves a temporal shift, the repetitive detail and specificity of these tales have earned the spot a reputation among time slip enthusiasts. It remains a beloved piece of local lore, inviting curious visitors to watch the horizon and wonder if, just for a moment, history might be unfolding right before their eyes. Picture an unidentified man claiming he's a time traveler from the year 3036 recently found himself in hot water with the law after being arrested for stealing. Authorities were immediately baffled. He had no birth record, no social security number, and no official identification on file. When asked about his actions, he explained that in his time, clothing and food are freely available in marketplaces, so taking them without paying is completely normal. His assertion that this behavior is standard in his future society not only added a surreal twist to the encounter, but also sparked a mixture of intrigue and amusement among those who heard the story. Whether he is truly from 3036 or merely spinning an elaborate tale remains a bit of a mystery, leaving everyone to wonder just how much of our current reality might one day be influenced by bizarre future customs. In the mid-1970s, an 8-year-old scout from a quiet suburban neighborhood just south of Stockholm experienced a baffling episode of missing time. On an ordinary October evening, after returning from a scout meeting by foot, he followed his well-known route home until, near a familiar roundabout, everything suddenly slowed down. A deep subwoofer-like hum filled the air, and the world around him seemed to freeze in a tunnel vision moment lasting only 15 or 20 seconds. When his senses returned, he discovered that a sudden rain had drenched his clothes and sneakers, an unexpected change from the clear sky he remembered moments before. Hurrying home, he was met by his frantic parents, who insisted that he had been missing for over an hour. They explained that while they had searched the neighborhood and even contacted other parents, he had simply vanished without a trace. In later conversations, his father recalled retracing the boy's usual path in disbelief, and his mother, with a mix of humor and lingering concern, even suggested that he might have been abducted by aliens. To this day, as an adult reflecting on that lost hour, he remains mystified by the inexplicable event, with no clear memory of seeing anything other than the eerie quiet of frozen time. In the summer of 2011, a peculiar incident unfolded for a family en route to a campsite that left them baffled for years. While a 19-year-old, his sister, their father, and stepmother drove along, enjoying the journey and switching radio stations, everything seemed normal until they passed through a tunnel. Emerging on the other side, a phone call from their nan shattered their routine. She sounded relieved, asking where they were, though her and their uncle had already reached the campsite hours earlier. The conversation was utterly baffling. The father, confused by the nan's query of "where have you been," soon discovered that, according to the radio's clock, 4 hours had inexplicably vanished in what felt like mere seconds. In stunned silence, the family grappled with the surreal loss of time. Their phones confirmed that hours had indeed passed. Later discussions yielded wild theories. The father speculated that they might have slipped through a time vortex or have been abducted, while the stepmother, a general practitioner, suggested that they may have simply misjudged the passage of time or experienced a shared moment of amnesia or another delusion. Ultimately, despite occasional mentions among the family, the mystery of that 30-second lapse in time remains unsolved.
Did a man somehow teleport onto this road in Russia? Take a look at this. It's always Russia, isn't it? I don't know why so much bizarre footage comes out of there, but this is a very strange video. I just don't understand where this guy appeared from and how he didn't get pancaked by that truck. Makes no sense. Slowing the video down though, I don't know, maybe it looks like he was already walking on the road and the truck was just blocking our view of him, and then it does this insane swerve to avoid hitting him, but even still, this is crazy. I mean, it really does look like he just spawns out of nowhere like a video game, and whatever the explanation, he was definitely an inch from death. This one comes from a photo taken in... I'm sorry, editor. Just gonna have to insert the name in text here. This place is in Iceland. It's 1943. Nothing out of the ordinary here, right? Just a bunch of people standing around the street dressed in typical 1940s attire, but let's play some Where is Waldo? Can you spot a dude talking on a cell phone? See the guy leaning against the building? Interesting indeed. He's dressed more casually than everyone else, almost modern. I mean, he's wearing a trench coat, but modern. He's holding something up to his ear though, like he's on a phone call. Now, obviously flip phones weren't a thing in 1943, so what's this lad here doing? Was he just checking or adjusting a pipe by listening to it? Was he scratching his face with something? Absolutely not. Don't be ridiculous. This fool was talking on a cell phone. He didn't think yours truly would notice, but I did. I did. Sue me. Honestly though, it really does look like someone using a cell phone. Like a guy who stepped out to take a call, you know, during a street fair or something. There's a short film from the UK that was shot in the early 1940s. It shows a bunch of people relaxing on a beach. Got kids building sandcastles, there's people reading newspapers. But right in the middle of the frame, this one guy walks through holding something. And yes, sorry for the lack of variety here, but it really looks like this man has a cell phone or some other modern piece of technology. But instead of talking on it, looks like he's texting. At least that's what a bunch of people online have said. He just looks weirdly modern and out of place. The suit probably has something to do with it. I don't think I've ever seen someone in a suit and tie at the beach. Maybe Doctor Who? But what does Doctor Who do? I don't know, you tell me. I'm Star Trek all the way, but I think he has time traveled. In 2008, a team of archaeologists in China opened what was supposed to be a completely sealed tomb, untouched for about 400 years. As they carefully went through the site, they found something on the floor, a small metal object that looked like a watch. Wasn't an ancient sundial or a decorative bracelet or something. This was an actual modern-looking watch. The time was stuck at 10:06, and the back of it was engraved with the word Swiss. Now, a find like this makes no sense. Wristwatches weren't invented until long after the tomb was sealed, and while Switzerland is definitely known for watches today, the idea that a Swiss-branded watch somehow ended up in a centuries-old Chinese tomb was very odd, to say the least. So, yes, some believe this was a case of someone slipping into the past and leaving behind their watch before returning to their own time. So this is Greta Thunberg, and this is not Greta Thunberg, apparently. That's because this photo was taken in 1898 during the Klondike Gold Rush. The similarity is uncanny though. She even has the same braid, same serious expression. Suffice to say, this photo blew up online. Some took it as a joke, calling her a time traveler sent back to warn us, but there are totally people out there who fully believe Greta's part of a secret government time travel program. What do you all think? And of course, we gotta talk about this one. This photo was taken in 1941 at the reopening of the South Fork Bridge in British Columbia. It's your typical black and white historical image. Everyone's standing around in old-fashioned coats and hats and suits, except for one guy. One dude looks like he walked straight out of a college campus in the 2000s. He's wearing what looks like a modern sweater with a graphic tee underneath and sunglasses. He's also holding a small camera that seems pretty compact for the time. He sticks out so badly, it's almost like someone photoshopped him in. But that's not the case here. Forums and YouTube videos started popping up, calling him the time-traveling hipster. But of course, there's always someone ready to kill the vibe. Debunkers pointed out that the sunglasses were actually around in the 20s and 30s. The printed t-shirt is likely just a sweater with a Stitch logo, yada yada. And while the camera does look modern, compact cameras apparently did exist then. They just weren't super common.
Into number 10, we have W Man. What does the W stand for? William? Wallace? Women? Oaxaca? Oh, only our British audience will get this, but I really miss Oaxaca. Get me some sweet potato tacos immediately! Tacos probably weren't a thing in 1940s Canada when this picture was taken, although I bet Mr. W has eaten a few, because look at him, he's a blatant time traveler hipster. A lot of people dub this guy the time traveling hipster, and he does certainly look like he would be better placed working in Silicon Valley and San Francisco, or Ubisoft. The picture was taken at the opening of South Fork Bridge, but it got the world's attention in 2010 at a photo exhibit. The guy is wearing sunnies and looks like he is holding a far more modern DSLR camera. Sadly, it does turn out that the letter on his shirt is actually an M for the Montreal Maroons, who played in the NHL from 1924 to 1938. So that being said, he could just be trying to blend in. Although to be honest with you, the rest of him's pretty standout. What do you guys think? Is he a time traveler? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Coming into number 9, we have Charlie Chaplin's time traveling extra. Take a look at this footage from Charlie Chaplin's 1928 movie Circus. If this footage was from the modern day, the first thing you would notice is that it's in black and white. You wouldn't pay any attention to the woman who is clearly on her mobile phone in the background walking behind a zebra. But this is 1928 and cell phones won't be readily available for another 70 so years. Even the early cell phones of the 1980s were chunky. This woman is clearly time traveling from the future, and judging by the size of her phone, I would say from the next millennium. This time traveler is caught on camera all the time. We have Nicolas Cage at number 8. Fun fact, Nicolas Cage has the same birthday as me. Second fun fact, did you know that the Academy Award and Golden Globe Award winning actor Nicolas Cage is indeed a time traveler? No? Well, he is. The actor uses a personally developed style of performance that he calls nouveau shamanic, which, I mean, sure. Maybe it's something that he's developed across the ages, as it seems that the film legend is indeed a time traveler. He's also fulfilled a lot of roles in history. Here he is as Mexican Emperor Maximilian I of Habsburgo, and here he is as an unidentified man from Bristol, Tennessee in 1870. The actor was forced to publicly deny it on Letterman. Spotted at the beach at number 7. So this picture here is a lovely snap of British war workers escaping the perils of their job for one much needed sunny day in 1943. The image was shared on Twitter, and the poster was asking people to identify where the beach was. It turns out that the beach in question was Towan Beach in Cornwall, but more than the stretch of sand was identified here. It seemed that eagle-eyed viewers spotted a man on a smartphone in the middle of the picture. He could just be looking at something in his hand, but doesn't it look like he's on his phone? Honestly, to me it seems like he is so checking his phone. To me, it looks like he's just received a really confusing text from Bay and he's not sure how to respond. So phones feature heavily on this list, so do prepare yourself for more and even more shocking examples. But before we get to that, let me pose to you that Michael Jackson isn't actually dead, he's time traveling. Find out why I've drawn this conclusion at number 6. YouTube account Fact5 compiled a number of pictures that have shown the king of pop popping up through history. It's so weird that this was never spotted until he died. It's like he's out there somewhere changing the future. Here's a painting of Michael from let's say the late 1700s, and then there's this Egyptian statue of him. Right. Roll up for another iPhone. This one comes 60 to 70-ish years ahead of schedule. We have Henry Fonda's Touch.
In our 4th spot, we have Leonardo da Vinci. Leonardo da Vinci was a painter, sculptor, inventor, engineer, and architect during the Renaissance. However, he's probably most famous for his painting, the Mona Lisa. Well, believe it or not, but da Vinci is thought to be a time traveler. Hear me out, okay? Leonardo da Vinci was often considered way ahead of his time. Well, maybe this is quite literally, since he's thought to have come from the future. One theory is that he went back in time to steal others' accomplishments or to help advance the world. This dude was a genius. He knew more things than anyone else did in that time period. For example, da Vinci drew pictures of a helicopter in 1493. That's around 450 years before an actual helicopter was created. But not only that, he had the idea for an armored fighting vehicle, aka tanks. And he also invented the idea of a submarine. He talked about ships that could travel underwater and even sketched designs of them. So da Vinci somehow came up with all of these modern day inventions and more. How? Because he's a time traveler. Making our way down the list at number 3, we have the self-proclaimed traveler. Over the years, a number of people have come forward claiming that they are time travelers from the future, which is the case for this next man. A couple of years ago, an older Greek man came forward saying that he traveled in time to the year 3207. Of course, during his interview, he had his identity hidden for safety reasons. His face was blurred out and his voice was distorted. Now, he claims that he was shot forward in time and spent 2 days in the year 3207 as part of a top secret military program. He claims that in the future the buildings were massive, triple the size that they are today. He also says that there were flying cars and that there was strange colored grass. It wasn't green, but he said it was a deep purple. And lastly, he says that aliens, humans, big animals, and robots all were walking together down the street. And that seems like a pretty crazy future. And why is the grass purple? Like, what kind of environmental mutation happened there? I don't even want to know. Coming in at number 2, we have Paul Dinick. In 1921, a man named Paul Dinick, a Swiss-Australian teacher, slipped into a coma for about a year. For that year, he claimed that he went to the year 3096, where he switched consciousness with a man named Andrew Northman. 1 minute, he was in a coma. Next, he's inside Andrew's body speaking a foreign language. For that year, he was living as Andrew. Friends of Andrew even noticed his personality changed. Paul was so scared to tell anyone of his experience, so he wrote it in his diary and kept it a secret. However, just before he passed away, he gave his diary to one of his students to translate. And that's when it was revealed that he had somehow time traveled to the future. And in our number 1 spot, we have Donald Trump. This has to be one of the creepiest theories out there. So, theory goes that Donald Trump and his son Barron Trump are both time travelers from the future. Theory goes that Trump traveled back in time to become the ruler of America. Now, here's the thing. These theories arise after someone discovered 2 books on the Office of Congress Library website. The books are called Barron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey and 1900 or The Last President. Both were written in the 1890s by Ingersoll Lockwood. The book Barron Trump is about a young boy who finds a secret portal and time travels. Both books have eerie connections to Donald Trump and his family. First off, the book is called Barron Trump, and Barron Trump is the name of Donald Trump's son. There are way more freaky coincidences though, like how at one point in the book he was guided by a man named Don, aka Donald Trump. And then in the book The Last President, it's about an unlikely presidential candidate that won the election. Sound familiar? Even freakier, the book talks about the Fifth Avenue Hotel, and the address of the hotel in the book is the exact address where Trump's tower currently stands. Hold on, it gets creepier. In the book, there is a character named Laugh Pence, who is the Secretary of Agriculture. Come on, like hello, the Vice President's name is Mike Pence. There's just too many similarities between the books and Donald Trump's life, so people believe that this book was actually written about Trump and his family.
Number 10. What even is a multiverse? I think a good place to start with this list is with something I can actually explain. When the universe first came into being during the Big Bang, it was followed by a massive infinite expansion, which we can prove as we can see it happening. When we look out into the universe, what we see is the past as the light makes its way to us. So, if we look out, say, 5 light years into space, what we see will be 5 years in the past over there. Astronomers with our modern technology are able to see out to a distance of about 42 billion light years into the universe, seeing events in places of space as they happened 42 billion years in the past. But we have no reason to believe the universe doesn't go further and infinitely. As the expansion continues infinitely with no stop, then things are bound to repeat themselves. Events will occur in the exact same form or fashion as they have before, like the formation of the Earth in a galaxy that is basically the same as ours. Life would occur in the same way, and decisions by those living beings would occur in the same way, leading to another you, or another me, or another us. But they would also occur in different ways as well. Every decision you make could be made a different way, and those infinitely repeated versions of you that exist would make those same or different decisions, leading to an infinite number of universes with planets just like this one with infinite different variations of history. This makes a multiverse. Theoretically, if someone is to travel backwards in time, they would now be existing in one of these alternate versions of history, one of these infinite alternate worlds. Number 9. The Mandela Effect. The Mandela Effect, sometimes referred to as the Mandela phenomenon, is an instance of false collective memory, a situation in which a large mass of people believes that an event occurred when it did not. It was named for a collected belief from a small group of people that Nelson Mandela had passed away in the 1980s in a South African prison when he actually passed away in 2013. Some people even remembered seeing news coverage of his death as well as a speech by his widow. But the thing is, that was nowhere near the only instance of the Mandela Effect. One of the most well-known examples of the Mandela Effect is the collective memory of a movie called Shazam that starred the actor/comedian Sinbad in the 1990s, when actually no movie exists at all. While this could be false memories or your brain filling in gaps, another big theory for why this happens originates from quantum physics and relates to the idea that rather than one timeline of events, alternate realities or universes may be taking place and mixing with our timeline. This theory is suggesting that the groups of people having the same memories is because the timeline has been altered as we shift between these different realities. While we can't prove this theory right, we can't prove it wrong either, and so it has remained a popular answer for an interesting phenomenon. Number 8. Doppelgangers of the mind. Ooh. Autoscopic phenomena. It comes from autoscopy. In Greek, autos means self and scopio means looking at. The simplest form of an autoscopic phenomenon involves feeling the presence of someone next to you without actually seeing a double or anyone there. But the doppelganger effect takes the phenomenon a step further, so that a person may hallucinate that they are actually seeing and interacting with another version of themselves. But probably the most widely experienced and best known form of autoscopic phenomena is the out-of-body experience, seeing yourself from the outside perspective. They are all technically hallucinations caused by malfunctions in brain mechanisms that root us in the here and now, but just like with the Mandela effect, some people believe these hallucinations can also be explained with both time travel and or the multiverse. For example, you wake up out of bed but you can still see yourself laying in bed fast asleep. Some believe this is caused by your brain blurring the lines between alternate universes, or that perhaps you traveled forward in time and are now looking back at an alternate timeline of you that is still laying in bed. Now that may sound wacky, but what about when there are actually two people in the world who look basically the same? Number 7. Lookalikes. So, do you remember in my first point how I was explaining that over the course of the limitless expansion of space, things are bound to repeat themselves? Well, we kind of have a pretty good example of that on Earth. Over time and through history, and even sometimes at the same time, there will be people on Earth that look shockingly similar to one another. We have all seen the photos of celebrities being compared to old paintings of people from the past, or two people meeting on an airplane that look practically identical despite not being related at all. The chances of even one of us being created exactly how we are so small that every person alive is pretty much a miracle. that's a positive. So to find someone else who has been created in such a shockingly similar way to you is pretty insane. For some, this just shows that building blocks can repeat themselves within the human species at different points throughout time, and if we expand that out to our universe, it just makes sense that that same kind of thing happens with universes. Doppelganger universes making a multiverse. Number 6. Flying. A lot of parallel universe and time travel stories seem to do with flying, and I've got one such story for you here. And if you stick around for point number 1, there's another interesting event that I think you'd find pretty cool. So, back in 1935, when he was still a wing commander, Air Marshal Sir Victor Goddard was instructed to inspect an inactive airbase located in Drem, near Edinburgh, in Scotland. While flying over it, Sir Goddard found the airbase to be in a poor state, with cattle grazing on the grass that had overgrown. It was in complete rack shambles. Later on, while flying, he got into a bit of harsh weather, and to avoid an accident, Goddard decided to fly back to the airbase till the weather cleared out a bit. Now, as he approached the airbase, the rain oddly and very abruptly gave way to bright sunshine, but the real shock came when he also noticed that the airbase was now in mint condition and in use. He saw mechanics wearing blue overalls working on the yellow planes parked on the runway, and Sir Goddard failed to recognize any one of these planes in the base as any that were in use at this time. Instant renovation of the place couldn't have been possible, and the personnel weren't even wearing the khaki-colored uniforms that were the norm at that time. Also, the Air Force painted all their planes in silver, not yellow. The real kicker came 4 years later though. Europe was war-torn and he happened to visit Drem again, but this time he saw everything he saw 4 years ago in 1935. Same people in the same blue overalls servicing the same yellow planes, and he even found the plane that he couldn't recognize before, a Miles Magister. And you can figure out how that means multiverses or time travel.
Screen at number 5. This clip is from the 1948 John Wayne movie Fort Apache, and there is a scene in which the character Lieutenant Colonel Owen Thursday, played by Henry Fonda, whips out his iPhone and goes over a list of names with his daughter Philadelphia, played by Shirley Temple. Check it out and tell me what you think. To me, he's holding that just like a slim iPhone X, although I feel like this is probably just a notebook. But it looks a lot like an iPhone. I don't know. What do you think? Coming into number 4, we have a time-traveling car. This time-traveling car has totally vexed the internet time and time again. This footage was allegedly caught on a Russian police officer's dash cam and features what can only be described as a time-traveling car. Is that the DeLorean? The footage starts as the car is turning left. We can see the traffic at a standstill, and then on the right, all of a sudden a car comes from nowhere. Like, seriously, nowhere. It's definitely the Doctor and Marty McFly. Oh wait, let me slow this down for you and you can watch again because this is so crazy. Like, where did it come from? Time traveling! Uploaded by Rose Adams on YouTube, this video has been watched over 1 million times, and by the looks of the comments, a lot of people are just as confused as me. Okay, the teleporting or time traveling car did have me pretty convinced, although I am less sure about this one. At number 3, we have a time traveling hero. So this video was uploaded in September 2012 and has been watched a staggering 11 million times. In it, we see a super fast time traveling superhero come out of nowhere and rescue a guy on a motorbike who looks like he was about to be killed by an oncoming truck. Time traveler, teleporter, basically the same thing, right? Well, it turns out that actually this is a hoax, a viral marketing campaign for a Chinese game called Dragon Totem Girl. Wow. Okay, that may have been a hoax, but this seems very legit. We have this chatty factory worker at number 2. Watch out, here come the girls. This footage was shot in 1938 and is thought to be of factory workers leaving for the day. There they all are in their 1930s looking clothing, behaving as I would expect, until this lady comes along. Now to me, she very much looks like she's holding an early 2000s flip phone. I remember those. So good. Something really satisfactory about flipping a phone. Seriously though, look at her. What else could she be doing? She seems to be engaging with the phone as if she's talking to someone, and she's smiling but not at the woman next to her. According to a video that Danny made earlier about time travelers, in 2013, a woman came forward in the comments section of the video to say that she was the great-granddaughter of this woman. She says her name was Gertrude. She said that Gertrude was actually part of a science and tech experiment to test a wireless phone, although, like, really, there isn't that much scientific evidence to back that up at all. And since then, the comments section section has been axed. What does this mean?
Number 5. John Titor, a man from 2036. In November 2000, a man named John Titor, or however you want to pronounce it, started answering questions on the internet about time travel. The man claimed that he is from 2036 and said that their world was torn apart because of the war between the US and Russia. Only a few people survived, and now he had come back into the past to retrieve some items that would help them rebuild society. He specifically asked for a computer, the IBM 5100, which was never released to the public and was only known to exist by only a few people who actually designed it. He was all over the internet for about 4 months, and then he disappeared. The thing that we gotta remember is that this was a man on the internet. I can honestly say that it is very easy to lie about something like this and fabricate any kind of story you want. His reasoning for the collapse of the world is easy to guess at. Russia and the US have been opposing each other for years. The IBM 5100 thing is a little bit weirder, but how do we even know only a few people designed it without someone being told that? You know what I mean? But it starts to make us wonder if John actually is from the year 2036. Problem is, we would have to wait until 2036 to know that. But that's only 13 years from now. And John was a grown man, so his younger self would have to be alive now. But all we have is a first and last name, and if you've ever looked yourself up on the internet, you know there are tons of people who share your same name. So I guess we will just not know until 2036. But then again, if John came back to change things and he was successful, then we won't ever know because we are now existing in an alternate timeline, an alternate reality than the one John came from. Confusing. Number 4, the streets of Liverpool. There are way too many strange stories about the streets of Liverpool that seem almost unexplainable. Like visiting those streets is stepping into an alternate universe or an alternate time. But we're going to talk about one specific example. In 2011, a woman went to a mother care store to buy a gift for her sister. While checking out, her credit card was turned down and she went back home and complained to her mother. Then they both returned to the place where the store was, but there was no store. It was actually a bank. Now, either this woman is full of it and just didn't want to get her sister a gift, so she came up with some crazy story to explain that away, or, stick with me here, or she stepped into a multiversal vortex and traveled to an alternate time or universe where the store did exist, only to leave it back to our universe, which is where she told her mom and returned to the same location in our universe or timeline, but it was a bank. Or she just forgot where the store was, or she's just lying. I'm gonna let you guys decide, you figure it out. Number 3, deja vu. Deja vu is just one of those things that we struggle to describe. Sometimes an explanation of instances of real deja vu comes in the form of short mental time trips to the future. Now you could just say it is an emotional thing, some feeling of I have already experienced this, a close feeling of familiarity for a scene that's just happening. This could be caused by experiencing a similar event that has already happened in your past. You're immediately and maybe subconsciously entering pieces of knowledge about what will happen in the course of the next few seconds, minutes, or maybe even hours based on those things you experienced before, even if they weren't particularly important or memorable. But what about when those details you fill in are impossible to derive from your present knowledge because you haven't experienced them before? So you just know the layout of a city, although you have never been there in your entire life. You know what the person near you will say or do in the next minutes, verbatim sentences for example, which they have not said before. If you ask a neurologist about this, or any human perceptual, mental, or emotional phenomenon, then they will always have an explanation, and it's almost always to do with biochemistry in the human brain. But that answer is boring, and I'm going to go out on a whim here with the other people on Reddit and say that it's you mentally or subconsciously traveling to the future or to another universe to pick up information and relay it back to your brain. Boom! Number 2. What happens when you die? There are many theories about what happens when you finally bite the bullet, when we hit the hay for good, when we pass away. One theory has to do with the multiverse, and if it deals with the multiverse, then it kind of deals with time. The parallel universe theory claims that when we die, we will be living in the same universe as we were before, just in a different portion of space and time. But if we are now in a different portion of space and time than when we died, we had to have traveled time and space to a point where we didn't make the decisions or didn't experience the exact set of events that led to our demise. Now this is probably the most far-fetched moment from today because it deals with something we 100% cannot prove. But given the idea of so many different religions and beliefs believing in things like a world after our lives, like heaven where everything goes right, or reincarnation after death where we start again without a memory of our previous lives, it feels as though moving to a different portion of space and time, or creating a new personal timeline when ours is destroyed, would somewhat explain those things in some ways. I don't know. The kicker is, we won't ever know for sure, so give me your theories down below. And finally, in at number 1, the plane experiment. Now, we're gonna end today with a real world experiment of time that could actually prove something here. We are all traveling through time, all of us moving at 1 second per second. Cool. Or are we? According to Einstein's theory of relativity, the faster you travel, the slower you experience time. And this isn't really a theory anymore since some scientists have done some experiments to show that it's actually true. There was an experiment that used 2 clocks set to the exact same time. One clock stayed on Earth while the other flew in an airplane going in the same direction that Earth rotates. After the airplane flew around the world, scientists compared the 2 clocks. The clock on the fast-moving airplane was slightly behind the clock on the ground. So, the clock on the airplane was traveling slightly slower in time than 1 second per second. So, if that's the case, and this is where I go off the rails, if you were on that airplane when you arrived back on Earth, are you now technically in an alternate time, aka a parallel world? Or were you in an alternate timeline while flying in the plane? You were moving at a different speed of time, so you were experiencing a different time, although slightly. Am I completely pulling everything I've said today out of my backside? The answer is, maybe.